off the stream today, there is a... We're going to see if I can get it to work here. Let's see. You know, okay, here we go. So, starting off the stream today, I'm going to read this. Project Stamina actually has their update up. We're going to so the November 10th update, which came out 2 days ago, that I did not realize. Hello, friends. We promised a September update. Jake had to attend to a prolonged family emergency, and we weren't able to have this draft reviewed in the time frame we had planned for. Family and personal matters have always been the highest priority for Project Stamina, so we thank you for your patience and understanding. And that's cool to see because, you know, they should be. This is a fucking volunteer project. Was my mic working? Who fucking knows? But let's get the webcam working real quick. Ah, there I am. I'm beautiful. I want to finish reading this first, though. There have been a lot of questions, and we can't answer them all in one statement, so we're going to tackle the most pressing matters for now. Project Stamina development. After much deliberation, work on Project Stamina is resuming. We are taking remaining Patreon funds and contracting with a dev-for-hire studio to take the lead on bringing Project Stamina online. That's actually really interesting, but the question is, how much Patreon funds were sitting there not being used by the former administration running this game? Also, the problem I have with the dev-for-hire thing, on the one level, that sounds really, really good. They're going to hire a professional team of game developers to build the game. But I have three questions. First, how much money was fucking sitting in that Patreon fund that the former administration wasn't using? Because to me, that tells me that I was paying somebody for a very long time, a considerable sum of money, and it sounds like if they have enough money to pay a studio to come in and work on this, I'm guessing it's a significant amount of money, which means what the hell was the plan with that money before? What was the plan of the previous administration? What were they doing with that money? Because that feels very shady to me. Before, I thought they were paying like one of the developer or a couple of the developers that were working on it before. But if they have that much left over, there must have been a significant amount more there that they were not doing stuff with. And that really worries me. Because I maybe it doesn't worry me as much now, but it means that there was money sitting there that I paid that either they just weren't doing anything with, so they were wasting it, or I feel like they were doing something shady with it and they were planning on pocketing it or something. And that gets under my skin. I don't like it when I hear shady shit like that. Like, I paid for a Patreon for over 2 years, and there was just a shitload of money just sitting there at the end of the day. What were they doing with it? I mean, I know they bought a little bit of merch and stuff like that, but to hire a studio, there must be a lot of money left in that Patreon fund. And what was the plan to do anything with that? Was it just, we get the game, like, I guess it's a moot point now, but maybe their plan was to, like, get the game to launch and then use the money in the Patreon to pay the development team starting at launch. Once the game actually started to rake in its own money outside of the Patreon, maybe combine the two and actually bring on, like, a full-time staff? Maybe? But I guess that was never clarified, and I just always assumed that the Patreon funds I was paying were going to at least be funding something, and it sounds like they were just sitting in a bank account. Problem two I have with this. So if they're going to hire a dev, if you're going to hire a dev and bring a dev on to Project Stamina, first off, that sounds really good on the surface, and hopefully it gets the project moving much faster. The problem I have with that is Project Stamina from the start has been a community project, and it has been a fan project. And one of the reasons I actually had faith in Project Stamina was because the people working on it cared about Gigantic and understood Gigantic and understood what the game needed to feel and play like and what the game needed to look like. So to get a dev for hire studio, how much heart are they going to put into this project? How much are they going to give a shit about it? Also, I don't know how dev for hire studios work. I guess this would be a fourth question about this. How does that work with the rights distribution? Do we have to give, is the project giving up rights to this studio? Will this studio have some type of rights over the project? That worries me a significant amount, because that's the issue we've had for the last year, right? Is that one man had the rights and we didn't like what he was doing with it, and it became a clusterfuck trying to get the rights back so that we could get this project back. As much as I hate to say it, I'm just going to say it. Project Stamina, in a way, belongs to the community just as much as it does whoever actually owns the actual project. Like, this is something that is only possible because the Gigantic community cares as much as it does. And so it very much worries me that I don't know how that works. I'm assuming, and I would like to hope, that it's just you hire them, they do the work, and then everything is yours. But I don't know how that works. Business dealings are very strange. Let's move on. Amazon has discontinued the services we were using to host these playtests. So our first order of business with our new contractors will be to bring playtesting back online, while reformatting our back end to engage with Amazon services is an option. We are taking this opportunity to attempt to switch over to Epic Online servers instead. EOS is well positioned to enable cross-platform play and offers more favorable terms for a small studio like us. That is actually something I very, very much agree with. I didn't know before that they were using the Amazon services, but I would have told them, if I had any say in it, I would have said that's the stupidest thing you could do, because Amazon is shady as shit. They can't run Twitch worth anything at all. I mean, we see that Twitch bleeds money a lot. We know a lot of their online services are pretty janky. Amazon is a great store, but they have yet to prove to me that they have Amazon's grasp on gaming and gaming servers and stuff like that is not very focused, because that is not the main hub of their business, and they just don't care that much about it. They make all their money on the store side of things, and it's pretty clear with like what has happened with Amazon games. What's that stupid game that was kind of like Gigantic, a very poor version of it, so this is good news to me. This is also something else I have said, is that they were already using Unreal anyway for this. So switching to the Epic servers actually makes a lot more sense, as well as the crossplay stuff, because I've said since the beginning, if you want to create a sustainable ecosystem for Project Stamina, you need to have crossplay. And I don't think that was a big deal with the previous team, but it is a big deal because a small community snowballs. People get on, they can't find a game for 20 minutes, they quit, and they go play something else, and it just snowballs. So then the next person gets on, and there's not people there because the other person got off because they waited 20 minutes, and it snowballs. And to fix that problem, you need to have the maximum amount of players being able to engage as possible. And I stand by this. putting PC players and console players together, I don't think is as big of a deal as people want to pretend it is. Yes, PC players genuinely do better, but I don't think it's as much of a gap with general players. With hardcore players, the hardcore PC players will smoke everybody else. But if you can put in some type of ranked system or something like that, I think it balances that board a lot. Because if you put in a ranked system, you're automatically going to have people filter into their own skill level anyway. So if you got a ranked system into the game, you automatically fix that problem, in my opinion. So it shouldn't matter. Let's keep going. But yeah, that's cool news that they're going to start focusing on these Epic servers. I completely support that. After we have our servers back online, we will put the remainder of our contract budget towards bringing core game systems and our original cast of 6 characters online. We do not know how much it will cost to bring our servers online for testing, but we know... See, that's another thing I thought my money was going towards, is paying for these servers so that they could run these tests. So it's just interesting to know to hear these things. But we know that without a playable game, nothing else matters, and that should be the goal. And I've said that since the beginning. You get the smallest game possible. I think the original goal was to get like 10 characters, so you could have 2 teams of completely separate characters. But I don't even think you need that. I think if you had a playable game with even like 5 or 6 characters, I think you would be fine for a while. I don't know if I would push it out to Steam Early Access or anything, but I think if you had something like that you could release to at least a Patreon level beta, where you say anybody who pays $10 a month for this can come in and play this game with 10 characters for free at that point, well, for their $10 a month, or for $5 a month or whatever, something where you can kind of shove stuff out to the community, I think would be... To give the people hope, I think, is the point. When this goal is accomplished, we'll be able to give estimates on what gameplay development will be possible on the other side. Statement of the LLC in Fancy involvement. As some of you have observed, founder and producer Mr. Fancy Pants is still listed as a registered agent of the Project Stamina LLC. This is a point of concern for some community members. Yeah, I would say so. He caused the entire downfall of this project, and yeah, I'd be pretty worried about this. I mean, it's a big point. The man caused an entire development team to quit overnight because of his actions. That is a major point of concern. It is not just a small point of concern. This concern is a major point of concern for some community members, and we would like to address some of the questions that may arise. In July of last year, Fancy proposed an equal split ownership model of the company and the project. That's what it should have fucking been since the very beginning. The fact that it isn't, and that's kind of how I felt like they were pushing like how they were advertising in their live streams, is that it was an equal split of the company. And so when all this drama happened and we found out it wasn't, I was actually pretty upset. I guess I should have just looked harder into it at the time. And we began working to shift this ownership model. In September, he offered to instead give complete ownership of the company to us and to unconditionally abdicate any responsibility or claims over the project. The paperwork for both of these transfers has been prepared, and Fancy has cooperated with all of our requests surrounding Project Stamina. We have chosen to postpone this process and to keep Fancy in his position as proprietor of Project Stamina. So the paperwork is prepared, and Fancy has cooperated with all requests surrounding Project Stamina. So instead of it sounds like they're saying instead of filing the paperwork, we have chosen to postpone this process and to keep Fancy in his position. Why? Give me a good fucking reason for that. Why would you keep this man in his position? What is this update? You have the paperwork. The man is willing to sign it. He says he's willing to give you unconditional, like this statement up here. In July of last year, we began working. In September, he offered instead to give us complete ownership and to unconditionally abdicate responsibility or claims over Project Stamina. He's willing to do it. Why would you not do it? So instead, what they're doing is they got the paperwork ready, and then they've chosen to just postpone this to keep him in his position. I can tell you right now that as long as that's the case, I don't think I'll be giving money to this project again. Even if the Patreon comes back online, they're not getting my money. And I hate to say that. Maybe Fancy is a perfectly fine human being in his own time, but it is clear that he had a chance to lead this project. What happened under him is very, very clear, that it completely fell apart and half of the team basically left and went somewhere else. You had a bunch of people who were voluntarily doing this for free, and he drove them away. Now to the point where you have to take money to pay somebody else to make the game for us. And you want to keep this man on the project when he is voluntarily saying he will step away. Why? They know video game is a complex and difficult task, and Project Stamina is a particularly complex one. Fancy has made significant contributions to the game and organization. No, he has not. He has said several times on live stream that he has never led a game development team before, that this is his first time into this foray. I believe he's, if I remember right, he has a background in like advertising or something like that. Oh my god, this is like this just the most backwards statement ever. We have chosen to postpone this process and to keep Fancy in his position as proprietor of Project Stamina, as a video game project. Fancy has made significant contributions. What his only job was organizing these people and getting them on task. And all of those people are gone, and they're not going to be working on the game anymore. You're hiring somebody else to do it. He's not going to be in charge of that dev to hire team. They're going to have their own thing. You're just going to give them the project and tell them to work on it. He's going to have no part in that except maybe signing some paperwork and like signing off on the work that they're doing. He's not going to be in charge of that studio. And has over a decade of experience and connections in the industry. Yes, but they're not like actual development ones, if I remember right, because I think he said that several times on live stream and in various other places, that his experience is not actually in the development side. It's in the whatchamacallit, it's in the like marketing or something like that. Because I remember he was talking about that when they were talking about like the programming and stuff, because that's why they had to go get a programmer and an artist. That's why Falco was there, and the other programmers and stuff they had was because Fancy doesn't actually have a background in that stuff. And so really what he was providing to the team was sort of a central point of sort of management to the structure. But the question is, do you need him for that? Because I don't know what he is offering at this point that you couldn't find somewhere else or get somebody up to speed on in a very quick manner. What this feels like is they've spent months and months pushing Jake here as the front man for Project Stamina to correct the PR image, and now all of a sudden Fancy's back in the driver's seat, and they're still just saying, oh, well, don't look at the fancy stuff. Look at Jake is our front man still, and that bothers me, man. This is probably the most disappointing update to Project Stamina that I fucking could have hoped for. I really, wow. You know, I didn't have a lot of hope left for this project, but I can tell you that any hope I had left is now dead. And I don't think, even if the game got off the ground, I don't think I would put money into it. Even if they got it up, I just, there's a moral conflict there for me. I'm a big believer in this as somebody who has worked for really bad, poorly managed companies in the past, to where I've seen a lot of people walk out of things. People don't walk out of workplaces; they walk off of bosses, and people don't quit a good job. They quit bad bosses, and it always sits wrong with me when I see a situation where a bunch of people quit a job, and then people make excuses for the bosses. Um, that's victim blaming, and it's just shitty. Um, and it just sits bad with me. I had a really bad, really abusive boss for a really long time, and it's just something that when I see people in situations or workplaces that have bad bosses, it hits me personally because I it just really bugs me. I don't know if I could ever put money into this game at this point, seeing the things that they're saying in this update. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, so I need to keep moving on with this. So for anybody who's is tuned into the stream since I started this, I'm reading an update for Project Stamina, which is the gigantic successor project, fan made. Fell apart last year due to some management issues, and this is their first major update in over a year on the game. So I'm reading through this real quick, then we're going to get to the game. Let's see. As some of you may know, Project Stamina is has over a decade of experience in the industry. He also was the one who founded and vetted us a contract developer, and he is the person on the team who can connect us with investors and publishers. See, that's a thing, man. Like, as many people in the gigantic community as there are, I can't believe that if you seriously took the time and the effort to put out the feelers, that there's not one other person that could find you. First off, you could self-publish. That could be a thing. You could definitely do that. With Steam and the Xbox Marketplace, the way digital distribution is nowadays, there's no reason you can't self-publish. It's a very viable option. Plenty of projects are doing it. All of the Paragon clones are doing it. King's Hunt is doing it. There's tons of other multiplayer projects out there that are self-published. There's no reason you need a publisher. Ideally, yeah, that'd be great. You could have a full-time staff and investors and stuff, but I don't think you need it. I think that's putting the horse before the cart kind of mentality. You don't even have a working fucking game. Your entire project is shut down and nobody is working on it. Why are you even thinking about investors and publishers at this point? What you do is you launch a successful indie game yourselves, self-published, and then if somebody wants to come along and pick you up in the end, that's what should be the plan here. And to me, this is putting the horse before the cart. This is a failed multiplayer concept that did not work. Gigantic did not work. For whatever reason, you can argue it all day, it did not work. And this just drives me nuts. It feels like reading this whole section to me just feels wrong in so many ways. And there's a couple more sections I have to get through on this announcement. I'm just sorry. As somebody who's had a toxic boss, it's really, this is something I get really, really passionate about. And keeping somebody on for these reasons, they haven't listed one good reason to me. You could have found somebody else to help you with the investors and the publishers and stuff like that when the time came, but the fact is you're not even at that time. And as far as contracting a developer, again, same thing. As far as I know, they didn't even put feelers back out in the community to see if anybody else wanted to come work on this project again. I feel like if you announced that Mr. Fancy Pants was gone, and you put out feelers, I think some people would come back to the project and want to work on it again. And instead, basically what they're doing is they're keeping him because they're saying his contribution of being able to contact these people in the industry is more important than bringing in community members to work on the game. That fuck the community. We want Mr. Fancy Pants because he is worth more than anybody else we could get by getting rid of him. Getting rid of him does not give us as much back as getting... That's frustrating, man. That's... In our opinion, while we disagree with some of the choices he has made as leader of the project, he's done more good than harm on the project. I don't know what good he's done. Having him as our point of contact and primary negotiator for potential publishing opportunities, then he should step down into a different role. I think this is what I'm going to say. The most I would tolerate out of him still being involved in this project would be him completely stepping down from any ownership. If this is how you feel, if you want him to stay involved and he wants to stay involved in some capacity, then he needs to step down and he needs to abdicate all ownership of Project Stamina, and he needs to step into a role of being whatever the a head lead or something, whatever the position would be, and it's on the tip of my tongue, that would go out and negotiate these deals for them. He needs to step into a different role, and he needs to step out of ownership. Wow. This is just the most ridiculous statement. They should have left this at the end, because maybe I wouldn't have actually fucking read it. Oh my god. Contact for negotiating potential publishing opportunities puts Project Stamina in a strong position, in a stronger position than a split ownership model would provide. So here they're... I got the feel... Up here they said they were going to do the split ownership thing, and then he said he was going to just walk out entirely, and then they said they weren't going to do that. So he is literally still in charge of the project, is what they're saying down here. Is that, to us... Project Stamina... His potential publishing opportunities puts Project Stamina in a stronger position than a split ownership model will provide. So basically what they're saying is he still completely owns the project and controls the project. Yeah, no, screw this project. I'm over this. This is ridiculous. The man crashed the entire project. How can you say he has done more harm than good? More good than harm? You do not have a project right now. You do not have a game right now at all. This man crashed the entire thing. He has done more harm than anybody on the entire project. You do not have a project. You do not have a game. He is ruined all of that. You do not have a publishing chance. You do not have any kind of chance. You're not going to get any more money from probably hardly anybody. I can't imagine anybody's going to go back to after the last year of what has happened, I can't imagine that anybody is going to come back on. I'm not even opposed to him. Like I said, I could probably accept him staying on the project if you think his skills are that valuable. But A, he should not be an owner. He should not be in charge of this in any way, because what happens at the end of the day, even if you guys act like you have some kind of voting rights with him, what happens 2 months from now when he thinks the game needs to go in a different direction again and you guys disagree? He's still 100% owner. He can just tell you to go shove it, and we end up right back where we are right now. At this time, structural changes to the organization only destabilize... Did Mr. Fancy Pants write this? This is what this feels like. This feels like him being like... It feels like something that he wrote and shoved out in Jake's name. At this time, conversation... Oh my god. Jeez Louise. This is insane. Who wrote this press release? Oh my god. Who made these decisions? Would provide a model. At this time, structural changes to the organization only destabilize conversations with vendors and potential publishers. none of which I guarantee you had. I very much doubt, unless it was some like really weird offbeat publisher that just is super indie, there was any major people willing to put major money towards this project. Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, but like I said, with Gigantic's track record, the fact that this is a follow-up to Gigantic, that it was made by an entirely free team, the fact that it hasn't had any work done on it in over a year, what kind of serious people would want to put any money into this? What kind of company would want to put money into this or publish it in any way, shape, or form? It's just insane to me that they're acting like this is like, if maybe there was some, maybe if I keep reading there'll be something else and they'll say something about some potential publisher or something. But I just can't imagine the world where any business person of sound mind would look at the history of Project Stamina, look at the history of Gigantic, and go, I really want to publish that. To where this is such an important contentious point that you would want to keep this man in ownership. I don't think I've been this mad in a really long time. This is insane. We recognize the opportunities for Project Stamina. I'm glad. I was kind of sad that I didn't like blow this up to full camera for this rant. But now I just don't even give a shit. I was like, oh, maybe I should have put the camera full screen so that I could just cut this and edit it and make it a video. And now I don't even care if the video is just me in the fucking corner because I'm this fucking pissed off about this. This is insane. At times, structural changes to organization destabilize conversations with vendors. We recognize conversations which you aren't even actually admitting you're having. You're just saying, if in the future we had structural changes to the company, God, this feels like this feels like gaslighting shit. Like, this is like when your fucking spouse beats the shit out of you and they're like, well, it's your fault. If you had just made my sandwich hotter, I wouldn't have beat the shit out of you. You know, or don't leave me. You can't leave us just because I beat the shit out of you every night. Our kids need a family. You can't just leave me. Our kids won't have two parents anymore. This feels like that. It's like, I know I ruined the whole company and everybody left the game, but, you know, you don't want to ruin the game. If you get rid of me, it'll just ruin the game. It feels like that's what they're saying, and it's just insane to me. I just don't understand it. We recognize the opportunities for Project Stamina have developed entirely thanks to Fancy's efforts and connections and experience in the industry. We unanimously agree that our current format gives the game its best chance for continued growth. To reiterate, Fancy offered to give us the company without any request for compensation. We considered this option and felt that it was best for the game to continue working with Fancy and postpone the discussion of ownership. Bullshit. All of that is bullshit. All they're saying is that they decided to keep Fancy on, and the only reason for this, I don't know what the reason for this is. Are they just they just don't want to go out and find somebody new to lead the project? This is the thing. Project Stamina, we recognize that the opportunities for Project Stamina have developed entirely thanks to Fancy's efforts, connections, and experience in the industry. What opportunities? There are no opportunities. It was like a 10-man team of people that were volunteering their time because they liked this fucking game and they loved Gigantic and they wanted the game back. There were no other opportunities that were even being talked about. This is so horse before the fucking cart. This is like, we hope that when the game gets done, we can sell it to a publisher, but the game isn't going to get done. Oh, man, this is so frustrating. I'm trying to, like, cool down. This is insane. This is the craziest fucking shit. Like I said, I don't even have a problem with the man staying on the project, but he should not be in charge of the project. He should not be ownership of the project at all. Because what's going to happen is, if you get to another point of contention where you disagree with his viewpoint, you're going to have people leave the project again, or you're going to have the project go in a completely different direction that is all about him. And that's the thing, is like I said, I'm not going to say 100%, but I am very certain that I remember in those live streams, he mentioned that he does not actually have lead experience in leading a game. That his thing is like advertising. And it just baffles me, man. It just baffles me. Because it's like, it just baffles me, man. Wow. Okay. So we're going to go on the next section. So Fancy Pants is still owner. He still has 100% decision rights. He still is in complete control of this project. And literally nothing has changed besides us being gaslit for the last year and being told that things were going to change and that we were going to get a new, that the community was going to be in charge of the game again. No, fuck that. Nothing has changed in over a year. Fucking fantastic. So let's go on. The next section of this wonderful Project Stamina update, let's read it. Until we have the game back online and can offer some tangible back to the community for your continued support, we'll be keeping the Discord in single-channel slow mode state. In other words, they're going to suppress conversations so that people can't bitch about this entire fucking thing. Maintaining our connection with this community takes a lot of attention. Last month, Jake was unable to attend to the Discord due to family obligations, and there was nobody able to moderate. While we appreciate the efforts our wardens have made in the past, we don't feel it is appropriate to ask anyone for any additional effort on behalf of the game until we have something tangible. In other words, what they're saying is they aren't going to make anyone else moderators over this chat because they don't trust you. They don't trust us. They don't want the community to have any say in this. This is the same company that we had last year that fell apart. There's a couple of people who are still loyal to the old regime, and the old regime is still in charge, and if you don't like it, you can suck it and walk away. And, there's no reason you couldn't put a couple of people. They're saying they can't, that the one moderator they have wasn't able to do stuff last month, and that it would, God forbid, they put somebody else in as a moderator. There's tons of people on this Discord all the time that are regulars who are very trusted people who are around the gigantic community who are pretty upstart people who I think could step in as a moderator. How much do you have to moderate? There's not that many conversations going on in the gigantic, in the Project Stamina Discord. This is insane. This is like, just shut up and go away. We're not going to let you talk. Unlike our previous playtest, it is our intent to open up our sessions to a larger section of the community. When this happens, we intend to host and stream the sessions of Project Stamina server and do a Q&A when possible for both playtesters and viewers. Our goal is to put our game into more of the community hands and share the development projects with you all than keep it in a walled garden where only a handful of people can see it. What? They were very open with the game before. For a game that was as early in development as this one was, they showed a ton of gameplay. They showed a ton of development stuff. They did developer streams every couple months. They were very open before. They offered to let me play it at one point. And who the fuck am I? They asked me to come and, I was going to, test it during one of the live streams. I was very excited about it. They had, there was, 2 or 3 other people. I think Turtle Ducks and, Kroof? Is it Kroof? Got to play the game. And I think Mangoose got to play the game. I'm just blown away by this. They're acting like before they didn't show it to anybody. They were very, very open before. I mean, I shouldn't be mad about this part because this is actually cool. If they want to be even more open, I guess that's very cool. I will say this is one of the only positive things I've read in this entire thing. The geez Louise. Oh my god. So I guess that's a positive. They're going to be even more open than they were. They're already very open. They're going to be even more open. This is going to expose us to a lot of criticism of the game itself as it's very unfinished. Yeah. I think what they were doing before was fine. I honestly don't think they needed to change their approach to being open with... They were showing off a lot of the game before. I mean, they were showing gameplay, they were showing development and concept art. They were talking about this stuff constantly, especially on the Patreon. They were talking about a lot of this stuff. I don't think this was really a problem they had. It feels like them making a problem out of something that wasn't a problem. Transparency with the public, I don't think was a problem as much. I think some of the hype machine was a problem. But, man, this is insane. It just feels like they're focused on, like, the completely wrong things. Transparency is very much the ethos of what Project Stamina should strive to be as an organization. Still, here's my problem with this, is they're acting like they care about the community, and that's why they don't want to kick Fancy out, because it will affect the game too much. But then they're also saying that, like, this is, like, the same thing, like, the transparency is, like, a big thing, and that we want to do what the community wants. But at the same time, 90% of the people following this game wanted the ownership to change, I think. Still, in the short term, we do not have the bandwidth to increase server activity. We do not have anyone who is able to work full-time on Project Stamina, and community manager for community of this size is a bigger job than any of us have the time for. It's really not. The community is not that big anymore. The gigantic community is still huge. Also, the gigantic community is still quite poppin'. But have you been in your own Discord? Who wrote this? Have they been in this Discord? There's like 5 people, and then maybe once a month somebody else pops in and goes, "What's going on with this?" And then it's the same 5 people day in and day out. This is boggling. You don't have a community of any size. You don't have anybody to moderate. I used to be a community manager for a fairly decent-sized gaming social network. That was my job, day in and day out, to moderate our forums, to moderate our chat room, to moderate a whole number of things. I did community events every single night, and I can tell you that my community that I had to deal with on a daily basis was far larger than this. And granted, I had help doing that, but with the size this community currently still has left, I don't... I just... It is not that big of a job. All you have to do is pop into the Discord a couple of times a day and make sure that nobody is misbehaving. That's all you have right now. The only community aspect they have on this game is the Discord. Pop in twice a day, make sure that nobody's spamming any messages or being disrespectful or anything like that, and delete the messages, ban them, whatever, and move on. You don't have that much to moderate. And as far as press releases, if you were going to run that through your community manager, again, there's not any development going on, so you don't have anything to announce. So you don't need a community manager to announce that stuff. Also, you just set up above, how can the community be so large that you need more managers, but you're unwilling to accept outside help for managers? That's so backwards. Everything about this statement is just insane. New recruiting and returning devs. With our current focus being on maximizing the returns of our contract with our new developer, we are not planning on opening recruitment at this time. So in other words, what started as a fan project, what started as people who loved this game making this game, they're basically saying, fuck you. That is not the direction we're going in. And the reason they can't go back that direction is because nobody in the community would come back and work for this project now. This project has such a bad reputation now that nobody, I think they would struggle. I don't want to say nobody, but I think they would struggle very, very much trying to find anybody who would want to come back to this project, especially considering that the person that ran the project into the ground is still owner. I don't think anybody who looks into this project would want to come work on it. And that's what they're saying is the truth is we just couldn't find anybody that would want to come work on this, so we had to go pay somebody else to do it. It takes time to onboard and train people. We don't have the hours in the day to take that on right now. This is insane. This is like the craziest shit. The question of devs who left wanting to return will be handled on a case-by-case basis. In other words, when the owner decides whether he likes them or not and wants them to come back. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And that's exactly the type of problem that 2 paragraphs ago when I was talking about the ownership issue that I brought up, is that I said when a certain person doesn't want something, whether it's positive or negative for the game, it doesn't matter. It's going to be his opinion, and that's going to outweigh everything else. Whether or not it's true or not, it doesn't matter. It's only that one person's perspective. So if the owner doesn't want a committed developer who put up with all this shit, who quit, to come back, even though they're willing to do it for free and come back and help, they're not going to come back. Whether or not they helped the game at all, I'm sorry, according to this press release, nobody fucking helped the game. Nobody did anything for the game except Fancy Pants. He was the #1 contributor. You know, fuck all the awesome art assets and all the character models and all the gameplay, none of which he had anything to do with, besides organizing the people to do it. You know, but none of those people fucking did anything. Fuck them. They didn't do anything. This is insane. So far, nobody has asked to return to the project. Project Stamina has always had an open door policy. You literally just said you don't have an open door policy. We are not planning on open recruitment at this fucking time. We are not planning on open recruitment at this time. We have an open door policy. No, you don't. You don't have an open door policy if you're not recruiting people. That's not how that works. Who drafted this? This is insane. Open door policy for people who could have contributed to the effort to step back and return when they have the time and the energy. They can return when they have the time and the energy, whether or not they get an apology for the way they were treated before or not. This is insane. One of the missions of Project Stamina is to build a bridge for people into the game industry. We have been successful in that effort in the past. Maybe. I know a couple people use stuff from the project as their portfolio to jump into the games industry. And that's cool. But this is them patting themselves on the back for something so just... This is ridiculous. This is them patting themselves on the back and being like... Simultaneously, they're saying, fuck the people who supported this game in the past. Fuck the people who used to work on this game. We don't think anything was wrong with the previous management structure that caused the entire collapse of the game. And, we're pretty awesome. Because honestly, those people wouldn't have got industry jobs if it wasn't for us. Jesus Christ. I'm going to spend the whole fucking stream today ranting about Project fucking Stamina. Okay, here we go. Project Stamina has always had an open door policy for those to return at any time if they have the time and the energy. They're acting like the time constraints and the amount of energy it took to develop the game was the reason anybody quit. That is not the reason that anybody quit. We know the reason people quit. It was a huge deal about a year ago, a year and a half ago at this point. This is insane. Jesus. Who wrote this? If you were going to write this statement, I could have summed all... This is how I know whoever did this statement does not have a lot of experience in... I wouldn't even say... Like, word... And salad's not the word I'm looking for. But, like, this statement, you could have summed this up in probably about two tiny paragraphs, this entire thing so far. And you could have made it seem very positive. The problem is... It seems like they're trying to, like, justify themselves. They're, like, openly arguing with the reader. And they need to just be making a statement and moving on. And instead of just being like, because like you could leave this new and returning dev statement up here, this first line of this statement, and it would be totally fine. But then they like go on, and it's like they know that they're going to get backlash for this statements, and so they're openly arguing in the middle of this press release about what they're saying. Like they're saying one thing, and then they're like, "Well, we're not letting anybody come back to the project," but there's a reason for that. And it's just, oh man, this is insane. This is some insane shit. Case by case basis. So basically, nobody's gonna come back, unless they grovel. I get the feeling that'll be the case. One of the missions of Project Stamina has been to build a bridge between people into the game industry. Okay, I read that part. What's next for Project Stamina, which you've already talked about up above? So why do we have a whole other paragraph for it? I don't know. Let's find out. Well, hopefully, this contract developer will be able to wrangle our systems and get the game online in short order. They have begun onboarding onto Project Stamina codebase earlier this month and are currently working to update some critical architecture to allow multiplayer hosting to begin. Once the game is online, we would like to begin playtesting. The goal is not to demonstrate a polished, balanced game, but to give the community an honest look at the difficult process of the game development. The difficult process of game development, this is like when... This is just insane. The difficult process of game development. You would still have developers to develop the game if... This is insane. This is like them making an excuse for why the game is not further along. Like, here, look at the game. Isn't it shitty? Like, yeah, we know it's not polished or balanced or any of that stuff, and that there's a whole bunch of bugs and stuff, but that's not our fault. It's just game development is hard. Like, they're making excuses for why the game is not further along when... Instead of admitting why the game is not further along, that the entire development team left because of basically management, instead of acknowledging that and like every paragraph is them stating a problem that was caused by the previous what is still current management, and then basically them being like, there's an excuse for but it's not management's fault. It's not management. This is just game development, guys. Game development. It's just this is how game development fucking goes. This is insane. This is like the most, like, I don't want to take responsibility for what happened shit ever. Here's the thing. If you wanted to keep the owner on as the owner of this project, then what should have happened was he needs to come out with a statement. I don't want to say an apology. I would like an apology. He at least should have made some kind of statement about all of this. And it's not. And they know nobody wants to talk. That, like, he is such a contentious point with this community that they aren't willing to put him out in the front because it'd be a firing squad. Like, he would just get, like... trolled left and right by this shit, and so they don't want to put him out in front because he's such a hot topic. But honestly, that's what they need. They should have just stuck. They should have just had, if Mr. Fancy Pants is gonna stay on as the management, as the central owner, he should have been the one to release this statement and been like, guys, I'm staying on as owner. You know, this is what happened. I offered to give it up. They asked me to stay. You know, this is where we're at. We've decided to move forward with hiring people to do it because we realized that what has happened with this project, I made some poor choices, and because of that, the project is really struggling. Everybody is left, and really our only option left is to source out the game to other people to make it. And honestly, I don't know if a statement like that would solve my problems with the management of this game. But I think it would go a long way. I think it would have. I think it would have just being honest and having him come to the forefront and him make a statement. And instead, it's like he's hiding away, and it just feels wrong. It feels like they're just like trying to ignore the fact of the real problems of what happened with this project, and to just blame it on, well, this is just how game development works. It's not. It's not how any job works. Failures at a job, when people walk out of a job, a vast majority of the time it has to do with management. And when they do walk out because of management, work not getting done is then on that management. One of the things I always said when I was a supervisor was, if I train somebody and they suck at their job, it's my fault. If we don't get production done at the end of the night, it's my fault. At the end of the day, a project manager has to be responsible for the success or the failure of everybody on his team. And if everybody abandons a project because of that manager, if all my employees had walked out on me one night, that would have been my fault. It would have been my responsibility. And it would have been completely on my head. I wouldn't have said, well, that's just the industry we work in, guys. Don't know what to tell you. Not my fault. Just working. It just feels just disingenuous. It feels like they're avoiding all of the problems with this game. Instead of answering any of the questions, any of the problems that have went on with Project Stamina, instead of just being open and honest, they're just putting up these straw man arguments for why it's not their fault. Game development, yeah, I think to an extent, yeah, there are certain problems with the game, polish and balance and whatever else they have in this statement, that is because of just general game development stuff. But also, a lot of it just has to do with the fact that it was poorly managed and that nobody has worked on the game in over a year, and that nobody wants to work on the game. When playtesting is online again, we will start looking at core systems and consider restarting the Patreon to help fund development. Once the remaining Patreon committed to bringing the game online are... Once the remaining Patreon committed... That doesn't read right to me, but okay. Once the remaining Patreon committed to bringing the game online are gone, there probably should be funds in there. Remaining Patreon funds committed to bringing the game online are gone. We expect we will spend out of pocket to continue the game development. You better, because I'm not going to be funding it. I mean, maybe other people will. I guess maybe other people are that obsessed with Gigantic they want it back that they can overlook all this shit. I can't. We hope that giving you something you can play, rough as it is, will be renew your faith in us to help offset the cost. Here's the thing. The cost of funding the Patreon was never an issue with me. I never even played the game because when I had the opportunity, I got offered it was Mr. Fancy Pants and I forget who else. There's two different people on the project I talked to at one point about coming in and playing during one of the live streams. It was a great opportunity. I'm very thankful for that opportunity. I've said that before. But the rough state of the game was never a worry for me. The money I dumped into the Patreon was never... Now I'm kind of bothered by the fact that it feels like money was just sitting there, but was never an issue to me. But even not playing the game, I had faith in the game until all of this dirty laundry came out. The dirty laundry is my problem with the game. And it feels like they're ignoring that, and they're saying, well, people's problem with the game was taking too long. That wasn't the problem with the game. The problem people had with the game, I mean, maybe, but you're always going to have people bitching that stuff's not coming out fast enough, right? Like, even like Call of Duty, Fortnite, people are going to bitch that those updates for those games aren't coming out fast enough. Wow, I'm glad I read this on stream as a live reaction rant. This is great. I am not mad at all. This is gonna be like some video that explodes and goes viral on my channel or something. Watch. But here's the thing. Like I said, spending money on this game for Patreon didn't bother me at all. The state of the game didn't bother me at all. In fact, I thought they were making actually pretty decent progress given the team they had, the fact that it was an indie project. It looked really good. I know Mangoose had a video on it on his channel, and he actually got to play the game, and he said it was really, really solid. And that Mangoose tests a lot of Paragon clones, and I know that's not the same thing as Gigantic, but he's tested a lot of Paragon clones over the last couple of years. He knows what teams of this size are capable of, and he even said it was pretty damn impressive. Like, none of that was anybody's problem with the game. The reason people lost faith in the game is something you are not addressing. From there, it's really a question of what paths are available to us. We do not have the luxury of planning too many steps in advance right now. We're keeping our focus on the short term. Get the game back online, figure out what we can do from there. This should have been their entire statement. This tiny paragraph right here, so far is very solid and probably what this entire thing should have been. Get the game back on, figure out what we can do from there. Our hope is that we can still reach our targets. I'm confounded that they have targets of any kind. They don't have a team. Their targets were like last year. They're way past their targets. 2 art complete characters per faction. The original cast revealed. 2 art complete characters per faction. I don't understand what that means. Because there's already... How many characters in the game? Because there's only 2 factions. I thought there were only 2 factions, right? Or were there 3? I don't remember. Maybe there were 3. Does it say how many characters we have in the game? We had R4 and Fan and Geist and Cake and Sakura? So that's 5? I don't know. 1 functional art complete map with a fully playable base game mode and online playability. Those are really good goals. If we can reach this level of project completion, then we'll have a much stronger basis on which to expand production and build future content. Again, that's what they were saying a year and a half ago. That was the message at the time that I very much agreed with, and I think that is a very strong... I think too many game developers get in this mode where they want to just develop like tons and tons and tons of content, and none of it ever gets polished out. And one of the things that I've always, at the time, from what they were telling us, that I really respected about Project Gigantic or Project Stamina was that they seemed very focused on getting a very small, polished slice, somewhat playable before they moved on to getting ahead of themselves. And I hopefully that's the direction they're going back in. I don't know if I'm going to play the game. I might. I don't know. I'm very upset by this press release, though, in so many ways. In the scenario that our game cannot be brought back online, we are considering open sourcing the entire code. This was on the table immediately after the Discord server was shut down. However, open sourcing the game means that it will not be eligible for console release, as major publishers, Nintendo, Sony, and Xbox, do not license open source code bases to published on their platform. I don't know if that's true. I mean, isn't one of the Paragon clones aiming for a PlayStation release? Hasn't, like, they showed Paragon the Overprime before it had the Paragon license that it announced last month. Like last year, like a year ago, they showed that game running on a PlayStation. And that team is much more official than this one, and I feel like they wouldn't have done time into that That's weird to me. And that's the same thing. That's essentially what happened with Paragon. Open source code bases to be published on their platform. I mean, maybe it's. I assume they put it in this press release. I assume it must be true. But, I mean, what counts as open source code base? Like, if somebody took that open source code base and they fiddled with it and made changes to it, does that still count as open source? I don't know enough about the restrictions of publishing on Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo. And also from it just doesn't. One of the things they've always said with Project Stamina is that it was PC first. Like that was their main focus, and that if anything else, and if other options came along down the line, then that would be a thing. So what would it matter to anybody? None of us were expecting. I wasn't expecting to. I wanted it on Xbox, but I wasn't expecting to get it on Xbox. I was expecting to have to play it on PC and murder myself because I hate playing on mouse and keyboard. We are a major segment of our community are console-only gamers. Yeah, we are. I am. Proud console gamer. We're giving our best efforts to meet their needs before we throw in the towel. Again, horse before the cart. I was totally willing to try to play this game on PC. Did not care if I had to. If an Xbox version came out 5 years after the game was out, again, fantastic. I think that's the. I think you should go with trying to have as many versions of the game that are cross-compatible and cross-playable as possible. I think that's the smartest thing to do in today's ecosystem and environment, and with and not necessarily easy, but as easier as it is now to do it than it was 10 years ago. I just think it's the smartest move. But if it can't happen, I was totally willing to just be a PC-only player. On a final note, this is the final section of this. We got all the way to the bottom, guys. Me ranting for an hour about this. Jesus Christ, this shit. This is a game I was really looking forward to, man. On our one final point of note, we are very grateful to everyone who has stuck around through this difficult year and offered their continued enthusiasm, support, and server emote spam in solidarity with the team. We haven't... What? It doesn't sound like they have a team left. They didn't mention anything about anybody on the team except Fancy Pants. That is, Fancy Pants and Jake are the only two people on the team that they've talked about. I think there's a couple other people. But they didn't mention anybody. They didn't mention the team size. They didn't mention how many people were left on the team. In fact, they pretty much said that they pretty much said they're giving all the work to this dev, to hire dev. So even the people that were working on it, if there was anybody left, and they said there basically was no work over the last year, they're not going to be doing anything anymore anyway. So they don't even count as part of the team. This is insane. We've enjoyed sharing our progress with you as it happens. We haven't shared anything in over a year because the entire thing fell apart. And giving you an uncommonly... We enjoyed sharing our progress with you as it happens and giving you an uncommonly close look at the early stages of gameplay development. While there will always be a few trade secrets kept in-house, we hope this culture of community and transparency continues. Its development slowly ramps back up. I hope so too, I guess. But one of the things that has come out is that a lot of the shit we were being spoon-fed, a lot of this transparency was fake. That a lot of it was like fake promises of deadlines that were never going to be met. And what we saw that was actually concrete, that we saw on screen, I will say I'm very, very thankful for. And the transparency of this project, I will say again, has always been one of their strong points. And it's always been something that I've really enjoyed. Wow. Our culture and transparency continues as development slowly ramps back up. I hope so. And I hope I hope some of the stuff that goes against this, like fake promises of deadlines, I don't care. If the game takes 6 years or it takes 2, I don't care either way. But don't come out on live streams anymore and say, the game, we're going to have a live beta test done by the end of the year. And then go, oopsies. I don't want to hear that. When you have a beta test ready to go, announce it the day before. I don't give a shit. I don't think anybody does. Um, the reason those live streams succeeded, in my opinion, was because they were showing us concrete step by step of the progress they were making. And it was impressive. The stuff you saw on screen was impressive. We didn't need the fake promises or any of the other drama that was happening behind the scenes. I can't talk about that stuff because I don't know exactly what was happening, but it was enough to make an entire team of people quit, which is just insane. As you've seen, it has been more difficult for us to stay engaged with the community than we have in the past. Yeah, because you won't bring on community mods, which would be simple, and completely free, because I'm sure there's people who would do it for free, but, fuck the community. If we brought them in, there'd be issues, screw that. This server is large, and keeping it in tune, how large is it right now? I don't know what the count of people in this server is right now, but it does not feel like it's very large. There's 45. Oh, there's online. Okay. There's a decent amount of people in here. But how many of them are actually in here is the question. I wonder if I'm on this Patreon list. I'm not even on this Patreon list. That's funny. Even though I was a Patreon the entire time they had Patreon, I think it was $15 or $20 a month I did for 2 years. I'm not even on that list. Isn't that nice? That's great. This is fucked up, man. I tell you. Transparency slowly rises, but in a difficult time, we'd like to ask everyone here to afford us and each other some grace. In other words, forget the bad stuff that happened with this project. Forget the fact that management killed the project and that we aren't changing management, even though it sucked. Just forget that stuff. Don't remember. Just kind of some grace here. This is ridiculous. Everyone who has contributed to Project Stamina, both devs and community members, have done so out of the genuine belief that this game has potential to be great and that the unique development model has the potential to succeed. I believe all those things. I do. That is genuinely the reason I supported the game, is because I believe the gameplay of Gigantic, if done right and, put in the right circumstances, I think it has the potential to succeed. I think it might be one of those slow burn things where it gains players over time. I don't think it'll be an instant overnight boom, but I do think there's potential there, and I do like the way they were developing the game in some aspects. With being more transparent and showing stuff early on, and with using the community to develop things. Those were positives. As you've seen, it has been more difficult for us to stay engaged with the community than we have in the past. The server is large and keeping in tune with this much traffic is a lot to ask for. Again, there's just not that much traffic, man. I get on here like twice a week, and I can scroll through days worth of shit in like a couple of minutes. And most of it's like the same 5 people, man. It's like Turtle Duck Man and like a couple of other people. Like, there's not that many people hanging around here. But we have a better handle on the trajectory of development and a little bit more time to plan what we want community engagement to look like in the future. In other words, when they feel like things have calmed down enough and they feel like they can control the narrative in the community chat better, we will look at opening up more channels and turning invites back on. For now, we are grateful for you're here. Wow. That's insane. Basically, they just don't want people in this channel because, that would be bad. They could start drama. They could bring up how off the rails the game has gone. This has been a lot of work and passion by dedicated people, and I don't doubt that. I think every single person on this game, Fancy Pants included, I think cares a lot about Gigantic, and I think they cared a lot about this project. And a lot of energy to a monumental task rather than dwelling on the difficulties that brought us to this point. Don't dwell on the difficulties. Don't dwell on any of those problems. Move on. Move on. Forget the fact that we haven't made any significant changes. We've driven away our entire core team, and that we're having to waste Patreon money to pay people who we would have, a year ago, we wouldn't have had to have paid for devs. That's what pisses me off. A year ago, we had people who were doing this for free, for the most part. We weren't having to pay 90% of them. Now we're going to have to pay 90% of the development costs for this game because of what happened. And somehow we're just going to gloss over that and you need to move on. And that, oh my God, the statement. This is ridiculous. Rather than dwelling on the difficulties that brought us to this point, we would like to take a moment to recognize one unsung hero of Project Stamina Team. Jesus Christ, if it fucking goes fancy pants, I'm going to crap myself. No, man, we are working hard. This has been a dedicated project, team, skill, and energy. But I do believe the team that worked on this is really good. It's thanks to AMEV, our system administrator that works on Project Stamina, has been able to resume. Cool for him. Cool. I'm glad he stayed around, I guess. When we recovered the repo last year, we discovered that it was completely inoperable. Whether deliberately or through poor practices, a critical error was left behind that effectively halted the entire development process. Again, who wrote this statement? All you had to do was say it was completely inoperable and a critical error was discovered. Putting in this, whether it was deliberate or through poor practices, this is just taking shots at people who probably aren't on the team anymore, which is very fucking unclassy. This is just ridiculous. This is so unclassy. You don't need that. Just a critical error was left behind. A critical error was found that halted the entire development process. It's all you need to say. Putting in the, whether it was deliberate or whether it was, it just feels like them just being like, trying to throw shade at people who aren't on the thing anymore, or them being like, just dramatic about it. And it's like, you're telling us to move on with one hand, but then on the other hand, you're down here insulting people who aren't working on the game anymore. It's just insane. This entire thing is just fucking insane. It's written by... I hate spin as much as the next person. I hate it when a company just gives you, like, this really fluffed up, nice sounding shit. But I would rather read that than this. And maybe this is why companies don't do that, because this is insane. It wasn't until late in 2021 that we learned a critical failure in our permission structure had created the issue. Over the last year, AMEV has not only resolved the issue and recovered the game's codebase, they've also re-architectured the entire version control system to make ongoing work more effective while preventing these kinds of issues from ever happening again. Cool, good for him. Props to that guy. That's cool for him. I can't be all negative all the time. It sounds like he did a cool thing. This will be slow going, but generating the first bit of motion out of a standstill is always the hardest step in any process. We'll keep you in the loop, and we'll hope that it won't be quite as long to the next update. Project Stamina Team, one final point. Jesus, I thought this was the final point. One final point of note. And then there's another line down here that says one final point. The contractors have finished the engine update from 4.25 to 4.27. That doesn't mean shit to 99% of the people in this Discord. I understand what they mean, but it doesn't mean anything to me. I could care less. This makes Project Stamina compatible with Epic Online servers and lays the groundwork for both us getting the game online and getting out of Amazon ecosystem and into something more focused on supporting the game as a primary feature. This is literally news as of this morning. Cool, I guess. Fantastic, I guess. So my whole takeaway from this entire thing is that Mr. Fancy Pants is more important than anybody else who has ever worked on this team and who will ever work on this team. Because someday this game is going to be so successful that we're going to get a publisher for the game, and that will only be possible with Mr. Fancy Pants because he is so important. Anyone who worked on the game before, they aren't important. They never did anything useful for this game. Who cares that they're gone? Also, even though everybody quit because of the management style of this game, it's not the team's fault anymore. It's not the fact that nothing has happened with the game, even though that was a management issue, doesn't mean shit. That's not true. It's just, we just need to move on. There's drama, and we all just need to move on from it. This is insane. This is the most insane press release. It's like, we know this dude did a bunch of messed up stuff. We know he was... That's probably putting it strongly. We know that he drove almost the entire development team to quit the project overnight. And he is willing to step away and give us ownership. But we care so much about a development deal that we will probably never, ever get, that we are going to allow him to stay on as complete owner and point man for this game. This is the most insane shit ever. Imagine you were running a business and everybody walked out on you overnight because of your management style. And you were just like, it's not my fault. And then when the work didn't get done, you're also like, it's not my fault. It's like, and then when people who were buying your products came to buy your products and they were mad that you didn't have products, you were just like, well, you need to forgive me. It's not my fault. And again, they were like, but your project, your stuff's not here. And you're just like, but it's not my fault. And they're like, well, it kind of is. I mean, you made everybody leave the project. No, it's not my fault. It's not our fault. We just need to forgive me and move on. That's all we need to do. That's what this is insane. Wow. My takeaway is that I went from being super excited for Project Stamina to being very quiet on the entire matter when everything happened last year, despite the fact that I have some of the most successful videos on my channel are Project Stamina related videos. I didn't want to make a statement on this shit because I don't know 100% what happened. All I know is that a bunch of people walked out, and that's a pretty big democratic thing in my mind to tell you something very bad was happening there. And I was very hopeful when we started getting these messages from Jake that the ownership was going to change. And now I feel like I've just been gaslit into that was their way of softening the blow that Mr. Fancy Pants is staying on the project. He's staying in complete control and complete ownership. Fantastic. This went from being a game that one of the things with Patreon and Kickstarter, and I've said this before, is any game that goes those routes, if you invest money in them, you're investing in a startup business, and you have to accept the fact that your money might get mishandled or used poorly, that you might be funding something that's never going to come to fruition. And I accepted that. I still accept that. I'm not mad that I wasted money on this game. But I can tell you that going into the future, with this press release, with the way they talk about fans and how we just need to get over stuff and stop being dramatic, is basically what it feels like they're saying. Is you all need to stop worrying about the problems the game had and start working on the future. And I can't openly accept this game anymore. This Snappy Dude out, I guess, for Project Stamina. Unless at some point in the future I hear the ownership has changed. That's the most baffling thing of this. Why didn't they go to the co-ownership model? My only guess is that if they went to the co-ownership model where they split it evenly with Mr. Fancy, he was going to reject. He wasn't going to help with the project anymore. That's my only guess, is that he was going to refute, because otherwise, why would you not at least at the bare minimum do co-ownership with him? Instead, you leave him in entire ownership and entire control of the project. Something about that seems very shady to me. And the way they talk about like previous developers in this, and the way they kind of just dismiss fan concerns in this, and the way they just kind of like push aside all of the stuff that happened because of this one guy, I just can't support this project anymore. I can guarantee you that if the Patreon comes back online, I won't be supporting that. Wow. So sad day. And I wasted my entire stream talking about this. This sucks. I'm gonna get off stream, everybody. I'm gonna go to work. Thank you for watching. If you watch this rant after the fact, wow. Have a good day. Hope you guys have a better day.